Recording, I think we're on. Welcome everybody to episode 6 or installment 6 of this humble little Zoomcast that we've been doing right throughout lockdown. I'm Matt Grima, and today I've got one of the all-time greats, one of my favourite people, both on and off the field, a director at the City of Port Phillip's Marshall White Office. So I speak of none other than Kaine Lanyon. Good on you, Kaine. Thanks for popping on.
Thanks for having us, Matthew. It's very nice to be here. Bit of fun.
Kaine, just before we jumped on, you were yawning. You're obviously pumped about being here. I've tried to get you on for a number of weeks, and you've finally taken the bait.
No, that's not quite true, Matthew. I did just drive up to 7-Eleven to get myself a nice little cheap cup of coffee to give myself a little bit of extra juice at this time of the day. But it's all good, mate. I'm looking forward to a chat and see where we land. Thank
you. Thanks for jumping on. Look, you and I, we're great mates, as I said, on and off the field, and this will be a bit of fun. I said it before and I'll say it again. This is largely unscripted or completely unscripted. It's raw. We do one take of this, so if we stuff it up, we don't have the technical nous to fix it. So we'll roll on as we do. Most guests, Kaine, have talked about their backstory as a bit of an opener, how they got into real estate and how they're in the position they are today. Before we go there, though, I reckon we've got you off the long run, and it's topical, it's timely, by luck or by design. I've got you on this little Zoomcast just days after the state government announced what they did and the extension of lockdown, which is no doubt going to affect a number of industries. From our perspective, real estate continues to be locked down, and look, it's going to have an effect on us personally, but more importantly, our clients, both buyers and sellers. We're not political geniuses, you and I, by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it'd be apt for you to maybe make commentary on the decision, what your thoughts are, and how you think it might affect us both in the short term and the long term.
Dear. Well, that's very topical. Where do we start? Disappointing is the first word that comes to mind. I think most of us, or most of the people that I, just around home and seeing down at the coffee shop and colleagues and whatever, I think most of us thought that we're probably going to get a couple of weeks more, given the school holidays coming up. Most people are thinking, well, I don't think the government will want us fraternising with each other over the school holiday period. So most people that I spoke to anyway thought, yeah, if we get an extra couple of weeks, not that we want it, but I can sort of see it coming.
Yep.
So I think that was a lot of people's mindset, and to cop what we copped on the weekend, particularly on Father's Day, was downright disappointing. I'll keep myself, nice, but it just doesn't make any sense, mate. And I'm not trying to be selfish when I talk about this comment, because obviously you and I are in the real estate industry, and we're only talking about it from our perspective.
Yep.
Now, there's far worse things in the world than sitting at home with your family and cleaning up your database, or spending more time on your fitness, or reading a book, or touching base with clients. That aspect of it is not the issue. It's just so many of our clientele have all got a whole bunch of different situations ahead of them, whether they've bought, whether they've sold, whether they need to lease, whether they are under pressure and they have to release an investment property, whether someone's got divorced, whether someone's passed on, there's just so many computations as to why people need, not want, but need to buy and sell. And everyone's, in this big freeze. And I honestly think, I don't know, there's a lot of meetings and lobbying and bits and pieces happening in the background, but I just hope for everyone's sake that logic prevails, and in another few days or another week or 10 days, that sort of enough stories get through to the government and they understand what they are doing from a locking up or freezing the real estate fraternity from transacting and trading. It's the ramifications are horrid, as they are, in every industry. But obviously we're, focused on the real estate industry.
Yeah, well said. There's, look, as I said, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, from a political standpoint, that's not what this is about. But in terms of that particular decision directly affecting people's ability to buy and sell, to have a roof over their head between selling something and needing to purchase another property, the machinations that go into that has no doubt, which is going to prove incredibly difficult for a lot of people. And as you touched on earlier, and it's nice to be a part of it in some small way, but Marshall White, along with the Real Estate Institute of Victoria and other prominent industry leaders and prominent agencies around Victoria, have all got together on the same team, which is nice, and are lobbying pretty hard to get the decision overturned and to at least open the doors from a private inspection perspective, so that people can physically tour, inspect, see, touch, smell, feel a piece of real estate. Because as we know, Kaine, and I know you've done this for 22, 3 or 4 years in the city of Port Phillip, it's seldom that you'd find a person or a couple or a family that would be comfortable enough to purchase a piece of real estate sight unseen, or largely sight unseen. Would that be a fair comment?
If you take away a couple of development sites or land value unimproved opportunities where someone's just going to potentially knock it over and build a new house, that would be a small percentage of the stock available anyway. But you're right. I mean, why would someone go and spend $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million or $6 million just from being sent a couple of photos or a 2 or 3 minute walkthrough? It's just unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
And it was, it was exciting times only a week ago, the amount of client activity where people were getting ready to launch. I mean, you and I and Brooksy have got that penthouse coming up in Windsor, and, we'd locked in stylists, we'd locked in, well, not quite photographers, but that was ready to launch. And, that's now set back for 2 months. It just, where it frustrates me, Matt, is you can walk down to your local coffee shop in the morning and stand within a couple of metres of 1 or 2 or 3 other people while you're ordering your preferred morning beverage. You can go to the South Melbourne market, you can go to the supermarket, you can be in aisles with tens of people. I'm hearing stories at the South Melbourne market where there are hundreds of people, in a particular aisle. Yet we can't drive to a house where it's either vacant or the occupant has gone out for half an hour and show 1 or 2 people through, and even let them walk through and stand outside and in the fresh air while they're having a look. It just belies logic. But anyway, the powers that be are that's where the directive has come from, and that's what we'll have to do, is fall in line and suck it up. And there are things that we can control and things that we can't, and that's one of those. And we'll make do with what we got.
Good on you. Yeah, well said, mate. Fingers crossed. Things can turn around in the favour of people that need to transact a piece of real estate sooner rather than later. All right, we've got that sort of stuff out of the way. I do want to go to your backstory. You're a country boy from the Western District in Hamilton, Victoria, and that shirt that you're wearing, that salmon pink variety, might suggest otherwise, because most people I've met from the country, mate, are pretty hard individuals. But that's sort of summary, that piece of material. But in all seriousness, I love your backstory. I had a chance to go back to Hamilton with you a couple of years ago now, and have a look at where you grew up, and where you and your family and your mum and dad are from, and perhaps share with the couple of people that have been kind enough to tune in.
We've got a listener or two, have we?
Yeah, slowly growing. Marcus Kiminello, episode 4, has been kind enough to get a couple of people tuning in. But mate, in all seriousness, your backstory is incredible. With your mum and dad, your 2 gorgeous sisters, and you're the son of a stock and station agent and a brilliant auctioneer. Maybe touch on the backstory.
Yeah, sure. So Hamilton is for those that don't know where it is, it's Western Victoria, about 3.5 hours west You can go through Geelong, some go through Ballarat, and it's most of the way to the South Australian border.
Yep.
Nice little town of about 10,000 people, very much in the wool country. I went to primary school and the first couple of years of high school in Hamilton before coming down to Caulfield Grammar as a boarder. My father had been there, and they were keen to, mum and dad were keen for me to go there. So that was my taste of the big smoke. And by and large, I've never, I haven't lived back in Hamilton since leaving to go to boarding school. So it was a great upbringing.
How old were you when you got to boarding school, Kaine?
Well, it would have been year 9. So what's that? Probably 15, yep. Something like that. Yeah. And that was a great experience. I loved my 4 years as a boarder, and the lifelong friends and contacts that were made back then is just fantastic. So that's it by and large. My father was a stock agent. His father was a stock agent. So I had the selling in the blood. Houses in the town, little farmlets, farms, but mainly sheep and cattle. So I spent many hours at 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in the morning penning up sheep and cattle, and then waiting for the buyers, for the market to turn up while the auctions kicked off at 9, and then everyone gets up on the rails, which you saw, and that's the agricultural industry. So that was a good start. I must admit though, Matt, I probably, most of my school, I don't recall ever really knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't have a sort of a hankering in particular for anything in particular. And then I had a gap year over in Scotland, came back, studied property at RMIT, and that was good. Only that for a year. Sadly, my parents died within a very close proximity to each other in 1996, and I was living at Queen's College in Parkville, and I rightly or wrongly made the decision that staying at college, pretending I was trying to be a studious university student, was probably not going to be the right thing to do. So I contacted Jeff Kaiser, that many people will know because he's got a very good business over the road from where we are. And I contacted Jeff because I knew that he'd gone to school with my father, and I reached out and said, maybe I'd done work experience. I might have done work experience there. Anyway, it was around that same time, but I did work experience, and then I reached out and said, can I have a job? And that was it. That was back in 90, I think it was 96 or 97. So I haven't gone far. A couple of different companies, of course, but always in that Albert Park, Port Phillip, along that inner Bayside belt. Yeah.
Kaine, it's amazing. I've been to a lot of, we've done a lot of deals together. We've met a lot of clients together, and I don't know about you, but I'm surprised at how often the connection from the country bobs up in some way or form when you're connecting a few dots with a particular client in Melbourne, be it Albert Park, be it in Elwood or Middle Park, whatever the case may be. There's something about those connections that run pretty deep, and people got a long memory about your family name in that particular part of the world.
That's an interesting observation, and not one that I sort of give a lot of thought to, but I think when I'm out standing at open homes or just talking to people wherever it is, on the phone, in person, that I tend to be a bit of a natural a joiner of the dots, a connector. I don't know where that comes from. I just do it intuitively, and it's certainly for our industry, it seems to be a nice skill, because at the end of the day, I've probably come from a default position that, as we all probably do, that real estate agents are not held by the world as the most trustworthy type of fraternity. So I probably like to join the dots, knowing that if I can find some commonality, then I think that will start to elevate you from a from a trust point of view, or he knows someone that I know, or we went to school together, or our families knew each other, and that might just start to help you get a bit of credibility in their eyes from helping them either buy that property or potentially being their agent of choice at some point down the track. I don't know. I'm not sure that I do it for that reason, but maybe I do without sort of knowing it.
It's a really good point about the dot connecting. I was going to touch on it later, but seeing you've brought it up, I think we'll just go with it. Kaine, there are a lot of people that have 4,000 and 5,000 friends, if you like, on a Facebook or an Instagram or some social media platform, and that's great because they're getting their name out there and people are hearing about them and listening to what they say and their message. There wouldn't be many people that have a contact list as long as yours, but more importantly, an actual connection with that particular human being. You ask anybody that knows the man that I'm interviewing today in Mr. Lanyon, and you walk into a cafe in most parts of Melbourne, and you think you're going in there for 4 or 5 minutes, and it takes about 35 because he's bumping into a friend or 2 or 3 or the brothers, sisters, nephews, uncle of somebody else, and the dot connecting that you do and you makes you as the successful estate agent that you've been. That's just my little side observation. And that comes back to, so your ability to recall, be it somebody's name, partner's name, occupation, where they live, what they do, who they know, is extraordinary. Do you think, mate, that is something that can be learnt over a period of time, or do you think it's one of these weird, innate, you're either born with it or not type things?
Well, I'm going to potentially ignorantly say I'm not sure that it is something that you can learn. It's obviously a recall thing. Matty, I don't know the answer. I just know that I just know that at the end of the day, if you want, I mean, we're in the business of people, right? We obviously sell properties, but we're in the people business. So I think naturally I'm interested in people, and so when you meet someone, I do like to, try and place them somewhere, as in where they live or where they come from or what they do from a job, which just helps the recall. So if you do see them down the street or in the village in a year or 2, that you remember that he's a pilot. So you've got something that you can go up and you can say, would be a nice question at the moment, how's the airline industry, but you get the point. You've just remembered 1 or 2 bits about them that at least gives you an opportunity to open up the conversation. So I don't know, mate. It's just a natural thing. I don't know if you can learn it, but yep. It's. I definitely got it from put it this way. I got it from my father, and I believe that he got it from his father. So it might be. Sorry for the noise of the dog in the background. But, it's one of those. I don't know, mate. It's in the family, and yep. It is what it is. It seems to be a very good skill. Come on. So that's it, mate. It is what it is, and it's a very good skill for our industry, by fluke or otherwise. Yeah, very good, mate. When did, as I said, you've been doing this, or you said you've been doing this since about 1996, and there's a lot of young people that have been kind enough to tune in to some of the stuff we've been doing. Is there a moment in your career, Kaine, where you said to yourself, I'm good at this, I'm okay at this, and further to that, this is going to be my career. This is what I'm going to do for a living. Was there one moment, or a pivotal sale, or a deal that you did, or a client that you met, or a house that you sold that made you feel like you were one of the best? No, not really.
I should have sent you these questions before I asked them.
When look, there's certainly been, when I got into it, it was not going to be a short-term thing. So I've never thought what's plan B, or what's the next career. So it was always sort of, well, that's the track that I'm on, and we just need to refine the skill and the art and the craft, and we just need to keep getting better and moving forward. Well, I do recall, after working the first chap that I worked for with Jeff Kaiser for 5 years, I think it was. I do recall going out, and I was in a franchise with Biggin and Scott out of Port Melbourne.
Yep.
And I do recall, when you asked that question, that going into listings, big juicy listings in, say, Middle Park, without the older guy beside you,
yep.
and you were, well, we weren't doing things in twos as we do in our organisation, but so going to these great big listings by yourself when you didn't have, if you want to call it, the security blanket of the older, more experienced agent, I remember feeling like I was very much in the deep end in the first 6 or 7 or 8 months, and then you'd obviously lose a few and you'd win a few, and sort of in that process you started to question whether you could actually flap your wings without the older guy beside you. And when you worked out that you could flap your wings, that was a tremendous feeling, that you could actually win listings on your own merit without having the 60-year-old director keeping an eye on, or slapping it back into the lane, if you like. Yeah.
I reckon in addition to just natural progression, one of your points of difference, and I'm clearly biased, we're as I said, we're close on and off the field, but your auctioneering week in, week out, for mine is some of the best that I've seen. You can fumble your way through a preamble occasionally, but once that number comes into play, you are one of my personal favourites. You've got a really good knack for it, and I think, as you said earlier, it's in the blood from what Dad was doing, and hearing as many auctions through the eardrums that you have. What sort of advice would you have? And I might even touch on how you feel these Zoom auctions or these online auctions are going at the moment. But for younger auctioneers, or for people that maybe auction occasionally and don't tend to do it as much, what sort of advice would you give to those people?
Scott Kennedy Green, who you've met with me at a couple of Eric's, who's one of the best auctioneers in Australia.
Yeah,
he said it simply years ago when I probably asked him a similar question, which is it's hard to get good at doing that particular skill, being an auctioneer, without volume. So if you're only sort of doing one every couple of weeks, it is going to be challenging to improve at least in a short period of time. One of the things, and again, it's probably on the background, because I grew up next to Dad on the rails. The art of the absolute art of an auctioneer, and the noise, the patter, is music to my ears. And this might sound odd, because some people are into, they might watch their favourite. I heard Michael Wood say on his podcast during the other day, he was referring to a movie, or if it wasn't a movie, it was a sporting moment, whatever it was, and he's watched it 10 times or 50 times or whatever it was. Other than Top Gun, I've probably never watched a movie more than once. But when it comes to auctions, I follow a lot of auctioneers. So they could be horse auctions, they could be real estate auctions, it could be just chattel auctions. It doesn't really matter what it is. It might be plant and machinery auctions, which I've found the power of social media over the last recent years amazing to follow. There are some brilliant auctioneers through a whole range of industries in Australia, and to follow them and to turn on Facebook once or twice or 3 times a week and tune in for, even if it's 4 or 5 minutes. It might be somebody from Elders auctioning some cattle in Mortlake on a Friday morning as I'm driving from home to meet you at an appraisal in Elwood, and I just get 5 minutes of hearing the first 7 or 8 pens of cattle, and you just hear the patter and the repetition and their little filler words, and it does a lot for me. I like it. So that's probably a good way to, if you're really interested in getting better, is to listen to very, very good auctioneers and a whole bunch of them, and then just take a little bit of patter from each one and make it your own, and then it's yours.
Well, you've still, you can take the boy out of Hamilton, but you can't take Hamilton out of the boy. And you do have a country twang to the street auctions that you call in the city of Port Phillip. And I think it's a great point of difference that you have. Mate, you are...
What about you? Before you go on, I see you've got Rocky over in the corner. What's happening there?
Well, I'm just trying to fill the screen and make it not about me, mate. So we're just trying to balance out the visual. It started with Chiminello, and he hasn't left, so he might be our lucky charm. I don't know. But when you're driving to an auction, Kaine, this is something weird that I do, and I know it's strange. I put on often some music, or often the same couple of songs that just move the mouth around, if you like, and try and spit out some of the words that you can't pronounce, or just get the motor going in terms of saying words in quick succession. Do you have any weird traits that you do? Are you calling numbers in the shower the morning of suiting up for the day, or you roll up and you call them?
Oh no, definitely do some of that stuff. There'll be a few numbers called in the shower.
It's weird, isn't it? I'll do it.
Yes. I often wonder what the neighbours think when you've got the little window open to the shower, and they can, if they're sort of out in their garage, they might be able to hear what's going on.
Okay.
Driving sort of in between appointments on a Saturday for the first one. I probably wouldn't do it between the second and third and fourth, for example, but just for the first one.
Yeah.
I always sort of figure if you get off to a good start, that then you're away. So driving around between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, you might be just calling a few numbers. You might be counting lines on the road, or posts, or trees, or something like that, just to try and get the repetition, get the tongue moving, so to speak, so you're semi-warm for when you get in front of the crowd. In 20 minutes' time. Yeah, it's always fun.
Very good. Yeah, we're odd characters, auctioneers, but you've got to do a couple of things to get yourself going. Mate, you've got Jackie, your beautiful wife. You've got 3 gorgeous kids. I heard a comment the other day that some people are married to their career and date their family, and I reckon you're one of the guys that have got that balance right, where you clearly are a dad and family focused first, and real estate's your career as opposed to the other way around. But it's not easy. I mean, clearly we're locked down at the moment. You've got some homeschooling going on with the kids. Your boy Jock's got a lot of energy, and you've even got yourself a little cavoodle there just to really top off the image. How do you? I know work-life balance is this mythical thing that people like to talk about, and sometimes it's easier to achieve than others. But how do you go about it day to day? Have you invested time in it? Is it something you're conscious of?
Yeah, it's interesting what it may or may not look like on the outside, but I've found the whole balance of life literally since I started work. All those years ago, I've found that the biggest challenge of anything. Those that know me know that I'm not an efficient person, and we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. But I've really, over the years, I've really challenged with, and I love work. So work, going back to the late 90s when you were young and single. That's all it was. I needed something to do that was going to keep my mind. It was going to keep my mind on the straight and narrow after losing my parents within 3 months of each other. So working in the real estate industry, and back then we used to do Sundays. So some crazy company started all those years ago. So you were literally working 7 days a week. And I remember there was a guy that used to work in one of the opposing companies. And we, it sounds crazy, but we used to have a competition with each other who could work the most days in a row without having a day off. Which sounds, today, I think, my God, what were we doing? But we used to get up to between 25 and 35 days in a row. And then eventually someone would put the hand up and say, "Oh, I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm out. I just need a day off. It might have been a Thursday back then, which I know that sounds crazy, but and then of course, you know, you find your partner, you get married, kids along the way, and one of the interesting points about the last 3 or 4 or 5 months is the amount of time that people have spent at home with their kids and their partners, and homeschooling, and you know, more family time, and being around for meal times, and being around to turn the bath on, and all those sort of things. It's very different, but at the same time, it does hit home that that's what it's all about. You know, we're out there working a lot of hours and coming home late doing deals, but it's all for the family. So I think this would have probably moved a few people's compasses, if you like, in the last 6 months as to the ratio of time that they're actually home or not home, or maybe rejigging things. And there's a lot of people that are rethinking a whole lot of life choices over recent times, which is good. You know, a chance to reset and slow down, and you know, work on the personal finances or work on the leakages. And there's lots of bad, but there's also lots of good that's come out of this time that we've had, this extra time that we've had in lockdown. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I agree completely. And in our game, when you're forced to look at the more optimistic side of life, you've done it beautifully there. There are plenty of bad, obviously, but there's also some good that can come out of it if you're looking for it. One of the best things that I reckon you've done, mate, is in your career is off-field. And you talked about your love for your own kids, but the connection that you've got with a charity that you're pretty heavily involved in Chain Reaction, which is a cycling tour that you do once a year. Maybe for those who haven't heard of it, I'm sure there's plenty through the Marshall White fraternity that have, but talk me through your journey into getting into Chain Reaction, what it's about, and what you do year to year.
Yeah, that is very close to my heart from a passion point of view. So, it was Andrew Hain, which kicked things off for me. So, not long after joining Marshall White, he was very, very, he still is heavily into it, but he was more heavily into it 5 years ago. And he went away, you know, each March and was, you know, raising money for sick kids. And he was sort of, I wasn't into cycling, so I sort of wasn't overly taking interest in exactly what he was doing, other than he was raising money and he was away for a week and he was riding something like 1,000 kilometres. And I thought, oh, that sounds like a long way, but you know, if you haven't really ridden, you don't really know how to put that into perspective. Most people, if they said, listen, you need to run 10 or 15 Ks, most people have got an idea of, you know, really how far that is, or how hard or easy that might be.
Okay.
Do they?
Yeah,
well,
yep.
I would have thought when it comes to running, they probably do. I'm not suggesting that you do, but but if you get the point, that there's far more people that have run around the Albert Park Lake, or that have run around the Tan. There wouldn't, and there'd be a far lesser percentage that would have ridden down to Morty Ellick and back.
Yep. And
understand that that's like running around the lake. That's a short one. So anyway, Haney, I sort of watched this for a couple of years from afar and put in some money and sent in a donation. And I thought, my God, that's just, it was almost moving. I just found it very inspiring. And I remember I rang him up one day and I said, I want to do it. I want to do that. And he said, well, you better buy a bike. I thought, that's a good start. So I bought a bike. And
so you hadn't ridden, you weren't riding consistently. It wasn't in your day-to-day, but you were inspired by the stories and the journey that the money was raising for kids that were in need. Yeah,
it was just the whole, and again, I didn't know what the inside of it looked like, but no, I definitely didn't own a bike of any description. So I was running a little bit at the time, so I bought a bike and started to get used to, you know, riding down the bay, down to Morty Ellick, or you might go a little bit further. And I signed up 5 years ago, and I've done 5 in a row. So each March there's about 40 guys, up to 45 guys get together and train like hell from late in the year. Normally the training starts in November, so you're training for about 5 months, and then we go away to a different place every March. So we've been to New Zealand, we've done Canberra to Melbourne, we've done Sydney to Brisbane, we've done Sydney to Melbourne, and we just did Tasmania. We got that in literally days before the world changed due to COVID. And that is it's certainly one of my highlights of my life, and a yearly highlight, Matty, to one, to get fit, to raise money for genuine, sick kids, really kids that are in need, and the mental health aspects that come from it, the general fitness, meeting more people that are across broader Melbourne. There's a lot of people that are in property, but there's also lots of lawyers and different walks of life, investment bankers, and so on. But so there's just a great bunch of guys that are great contacts, just from a human element. A little bit of business occasionally starts to come from it after the relationships build. But it's an amazing thing to do, and I've entrenched myself into that community over the last number of years. I now find myself on the committee, on the organising committee, and it's a nice aspect to life. Absolutely.
Hey, good on you, mate. I love how passionately you speak of it. I love how seriously you take it. You're always on the bike and training, and you're looking at the others on Strava, and you're tuned into it. So and I think there's a flow-on effect that for the mental health, as you said, and then through your real estate journey as well. I think it's only of benefit to you. So well done, and may it continue for a long time.
You keen to join? Is this where you're going?
Oh, Jesus Christ! No, I'll clap you from the sidelines and just throw a little donation in. But I know how much you like it.
I think you look good in Lycra.
Yeah, that's not my bag at all. You're being cheeky here, and we're almost about to wrap up. But I know how much you like this chain reaction thing, because you went skiing on a boys' trip, I remember, and a low-key, humble sort of down low thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you tried a jump that someone in your age bracket shouldn't be doing, and you snapped your leg in one way or another, and you still looked Jackie in the eye and told her that you'd be okay and you're going to jump on the bike and pedal through it. Now, that wasn't the case, was it?
Yeah, no. That was a classic story of, and a few of the boys said, this is 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, and one of our mates turned 40, and it had been in planning for 2 years. So there was 12 of us, I think, that went over to Japan in the February to go on a week-long skiing trip, and I had not done a lot of skiing, or at least not since I was probably 20. So I probably hadn't been skiing for 20 years. I'd maybe been away on the Marshall White ski trip, which was one day at Mount Buller.
Okay, so not hitting the slopes all that often. No,
but I knew that I could ski. A bit like someone saying, "Well, can you ride a bike?" Well, yeah, I can ride a bike. Yeah, any good at it? No, but that's not the point. I'll have a bit of fun. So we had 3 or 4 days on the slopes, big powder, deep powder, and I'd been chasing around some of my closer mates in that group who were very, very good skiers. And after about day 3 or day 4, I was just tired. I was just, the body just couldn't take the tracks that they were going down. And I said, listen, where are the other boys? Where are the more intermediate skiers? I need to go and turn the jets down a little bit. So they said, we met up with them for lunch, and then we went over to a different part of the mountain, and they said, Kaine, we'll take you to there's a jumps park. And I thought, this sounds like fun. And one of the things that people, or some people will know and people will learn, is that as you go away on boys' holidays, firstly, they become very competitive. But secondly, as someone said, probably after the incident, that generally speaking, blokes think that they are 10 years younger in their own minds when it comes to their sporting abilities,
right,
or the extremism. So we went over a couple of jumps, and I thought, oh yeah, this is a bit of fun. And then one of the boys said, oh, there's a bigger one over there. Go and have a go at that, Kaine. You seem to be pretty keen on that. So I went over this jump and attacked it pretty hard, and it had a little kicker on the lip. And as soon as I hit this kicker, I thought, oh my Lord, I'm in serious trouble. The whole body was going up on the wrong angle, and I thought, oh dear. I came down and landed on my back. I mean, I felt like I was probably 4 or 5 or 6 meters in the air. In reality, I was probably a meter. And I slammed down on my back, and I thought I'd broken my back. I was lying in the snow for something like 10 to 15 minutes, and I couldn't move. I was just writhing in pain. And it was only after that sort of pain subsided that I got up and tried to ski down the bottom of the mountain and realised that there was a hot spot on the leg. Anyway, we worked out later that day that I'd broken the leg, and I was pretty annoyed. And the only thing I was annoyed about was the fact that chain reaction was in about 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And given that I could limp, I thought, well, I'll just give it a rest for 10 days, and we'll get back home, and I won't tell Jackie about it, and I think we'll be able to get through. It's not like I've got to run a marathon. I've got a cycle, which is quite low impact in comparison to, say, running.
Mm.
So
tough with the broken leg, though.
No, well, I didn't know it was broken at that point.
Okay.
No, I just knew that I'd done some damage, and I rang my mate back home, Bart, and he's a physio, and I described it to him over the phone, and he said, oh, it sort of sounds like, he said, you might have broken your fibula. I said, oh, okay, yeah, is that bad? He said, well, you might have a broken leg. So anyway, we got home from Japan, and I went to see him, and I went over to his house in Melbourne one night, and he just sort of started playing with it as physios do, and then there was this almighty crack, and I screamed the house down, and he sent me to the X-ray people the next morning, and as it turned out, Bart had, unbeknownst to him, he'd broken it back in. So I'd been limping around. I think you and I had a few options when I got back, and we did a few options on that weekend. So I'd been limping around with a broken leg for 10 days, and Bart snapped it back in.
I remember you came back and you called 4 auctions that Saturday with a moon boot on, and
that's right.
I think you felt somewhat guilty that it was a self-inflicted injury, and you had to step up to the plate regardless of the pain. But your leg would have been very sore that Saturday evening. So maybe less skiing, more bike time for you.
Yeah, well, if I go skiing next time, I won't be chasing down the jumps park. Let's put it that way.
Mate, you're a star.
Tell me about this whole ZOOMCAST, Matty. Is there greater things ahead? Are you looking for contracts? What are we up to?
We're not looking for contracts. We know our place amongst the podcast fraternity. I don't know, mate. It's been a lot of fun to do. I've had some really positive responses through some social media, and I think it was more to cure my boredom through lockdown initially. But I love a character and I love a story, and I don't know whether that's the old journo in me or somebody that just likes to hear different sides of the fence. And if anyone's got a good story to tell, I'm trying to recruit them and get them on. And touch wood, it's gone well early days, and fingers crossed it keeps going. For those that can't do the visual for 40 or 50 minutes, by all means, jump on iTunes, jump on Spotify, search ZOOMCAST, and we'll pop up somewhere near the very bottom of the list. Kaine, where can people find you if they want to have a coffee with you and pick your brain about 23 or 4 years in the industry, one of the toughest markets, toughest in terms of your level of competition is outstanding. Where can people find you? I know you've got an Instagram page that you're pretty keen to plug.
Yeah, well, they can find me at Marshall White in Port Phillip. Albert Park is where the office is. telephone numbers 0411 875 478, or
Thank you.
the Instagram page is Port Phillip Property. And I'm doing a little bit more work on that over the last couple of months to work on that avenue of business, and that's where you can find me. There you go.
Done. Well done, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I think people will get a kick out of it. You've always got a good story to tell, and look, I wish you every success once we come out of lockdown from a real estate perspective, and keep putting in the Ks on the bike as you head towards another chain reaction.
Mate, thank you. I think your style of the way that you are with people and you come across naturally in this format is excellent. So well done, and may your success continue on as the contracts start rolling in the future months.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on.
Well done.
See you, Kaine.
See you soon.